Hello, welcome to LifeTalk for June 22nd, 2018. We're finally back. And it's been a long time coming, but we are back. And I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and I'm joined by the usual suspects. And we've got a new usual suspect we'll be talking about here in a minute. But the old usual suspect is my assistant, Renee Hobbs. Hello, Renee.
Hello. It's good to be back.
It is good to be back.
Yeah.
Now we are joined by the newest member of the usual suspects, and some of you may recognize her. Her face has been in post offices all over the country. So, this is my daughter Sheila.
Hi, everybody.
And she is joining us now as a permanent member of the Life Dynamics Usual Suspects crew. And I'm sure a lot of people out there, Sheila, that watch this show are people that went to my old seminars and old speeches that I did back in the 90s when you were going, because you were born in 1990, so.
So I was just a little baby back then.
I know.
so-
They're probably looking at you saying, she's grown up. Oh, my goodness.
She looks different.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Looks good.
gotten a little bigger, a little, you know,
Yeah, taller.
no less unruly.
Well, welcome
More
to the
hair.
show. I'm glad you're
Thank
here with
you.
us.
Yep, we're excited to have you here, and we'll be talking about in a little bit what the duties of Sheila will be, what she'll be doing here at Life Dynamics and
Exactly.
on Life Talk. But we're happy to have you there.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Good
Should-
to be here.
Should I be calling you Doppy Doodle since that's always been your nickname?
No, not for live talk. Just
Sheila will work, huh?
I like
Sheila
Doppy.
will do.
I like Doppy or Doppy Doodle. And
You're
I've
not
got
partial, right?
I got some for you too, Renee. Some
That's okay, yeah.
Nicknames that we use around
Right.
here.
Renee or Renee. You know.
Right. No, but we got
That's
some
good.
better ones than that.
No, we really don't.
Yes, we really do. Anyway, for those of you who are longtime Life Talk viewers, you know that we've been off since January, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
We've been getting calls, people asking, where was Live Talk, and excited,
Right.
that we're finally back.
Right.
Yeah, we have been getting phone calls.
We have been getting a lot of phone calls, which is good because it means people are watching.
Right. Absolutely.
It's bad that we've been off for this long. When we started this process, Renee, as you know, we thought we'd be off a month or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We didn't even get into this building a month or 6 weeks later.
No.
To let people know who maybe have forgotten or didn't watch the previous shows, we sold our old building and moved to this new building. And, I knew rebuilding the studio was going to be arduous, to say the least.
A little bit challenging.
But I had no idea that it was going to take as long as it did. But I really like this studio better than the one we left.
Right.
Well, I like the whole building better, and I think everybody does.
Everybody
so.
does.
I was about to make that point too. Yeah, we downsized. It's much smaller.
Right.
It fits our needs much better.
Exactly.
But the move itself was a nightmare.
Very much so.
First off, people need to understand, we were moving from a 10,000 square foot building to a 4,000 square foot building.
Yes.
So we had 6,000 square feet of junk to get rid of.
Yes.
And we had collected stuff over the years because our building was way much too big for us, basically. We didn't get rid of anything. So we got something we didn't need anymore, we just stuffed it
We could store it away.
And so, years and years of that, you get way too much. And,
Right.
that's true with even, a house or apartment. So
Right,
people
yeah.
can understand that.
Oh, yeah, when we moved, we built that new house when, which you were about 12, I guess. No, you were about 10.
Yeah.
You were 10.
9 or 10.
Yeah. And when we moved, we found stuff that we hadn't even touched since we'd been in that house.
Right.
And we'd been in that house over 20 years. And we had stuff in there we had not touched.
Right.
So this move was a lot more arduous than we thought it was going to be. And knowing what to keep and what to get rid of. And then when we got ready to start moving, we had put everything in boxes and labeled the boxes where they would go in this new building. We'd numbered all the rooms in here.
And put stuff in storage units.
Oh, man. But then the day we moved, it came up a monsoon.
It had to
Oh.
rain right that moment.
Not just rain.
No,
yeah,
but
it was
storm.
pouring
It was
Right.
pouring
Yeah.
for 2 days.
for 2 days while they were trying to move us in.
Move us in.
Yeah.
And so that stuff of this goes in that room, this
Yeah.
goes in that went out the window. Just get it into the building.
Everything that was from the other building, the storages, came directly to the studio that we're sitting in right,
Right.
now. We could hardly even walk into this
We couldn't.
room.
Remember, I had to crawl
Yes.
across the top
I
to
know
get to
it.
something?
Yeah.
And plus there was 5 or 6 storage units that we just,
Right.
filled up before we could actually do the physical moving.
Plus
of
2 of
the
those
building.
pods.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
It
unbelievable.
was crazy.
But the fact is that the move was necessitated because things have changed, and we're now able to do more with far fewer people than what, at one time we had 15 employees at Life Dynamics. You remember those days. That was long before you
Yeah.
came, but Sheila remembers. We had 15 employees. Now we're getting more stuff out of 4 or 5, more production out of 4 or 5 than we did then. Computers have changed that, the internet has changed it, social media has changed
changed,
all
yeah.
that.
Technology.
Technology has really changed it. And we had a 10,000 square foot building with 4 people working in it. And so we turned that building into some income.
Right.
And actually what we've done is we've become more efficient, and we've become better stewards of the money that we have and the resources that we have. And I agree with y'all. I like this building better than the other one.
Yeah.
I think anybody, that visited the old building and that's going to visit this one, I think anybody would agree. It's much more modern, open.
It's
It's homey.
it's homier.
It is just homier, yeah. And Leland Johnson says, welcome back, by the way.
Well, thank you, Leland. We
And
appreciate it.
Patricia says, powerful work.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you something. If you're part of the abortion lobby that's watching this show, you ain't seen nothing yet. Buckle up your seatbelt.
I'm going to be singing that song all day.
Anyway, we've made some changes since the last show, and I want to talk about those real quick. First off, we've added the Doppy, and so she's now here. And for those of you who don't know, Sheila has her degree, her undergraduate degree. She's still working on her master's, which is a subject we won't go into. She's making a career out of her master's degree.
No.
But she's just about finished with that, and she'll be finished with that here very shortly. But her undergraduate degree was in, basically, you tell what it was. I mean,
Well, it's new media, how social media is used in marketing and promotions.
Right.
And digital media, and how, everything like that is changing and changing the media industry and for businesses and nonprofits.
Right.
And we need that here.
We need that desperately because we're all old. The whole thing.
Oh, hold a second. Wait. Speak for yourself over there.
Okay, you're older than her, but you're not as old as me, obviously.
Okay.
By the way, one of the changes that occurred since our last show is I hit the skids. I turned 70 in March, so I'm kind of down for the count.
Well, 70 is the new 50, they say. So.
Yeah, that's what people who are 70 say. That's what nobody else says.
Instead of over the hill, it's now over 70, I guess.
But anyway, I'm old, worn out, and 1 foot in the grave and then the other one on the banana peel. So that's one of the changes that's happened. But Sheila is going to be here, and we know that it is crucial today for pro-life groups because the other side, Planned Parenthood with TeenWire and all the other things that they're doing, they are going after the younger generation.
Yes, they are.
with all their junk that they're putting out there, and
The lying
They
to
know
you.
how to attract them, yeah.
But they know how to market to that group.
Right.
And if the pro-life movement doesn't do a better job of that, we can fold up our tents right now and go home.
We're not going to.
And Life Dynamics is not doing that. So fortunately, Sheila has come along, and
She's going to help us out.
Sheila's got a good background because Sheila literally grew up in the pro-life movement and grew up at Life Dynamics. Life Dynamics was here right from the jump and I had already been in the pro-life movement for many, many years when Sheila came along, and I was doing seminars, and so Sheila grew up in the pro-life movement, so she has some knowledge of the history of it. And you've met every person over the last 25 years because of LifeTalk and the going out and doing banquets and speeches. You always went with me, or usually went with me. And because of that, I mean, everybody in the pro-life movement, and all the big players and the little players, and so she grew up in it. So she's going to be a heck of a addition for us. And one day when I croak and Renee's take over, Sheila will be one of your big assets at that time.
Yes, she will.
Takes over too. The other thing we need to bring people up to date on is we got some animal updates to give. Everybody knows that we have a lot of animals here.
our own Noah's Ark.
Yeah, right.
We're not just baby lovers, we're animal lovers.
We love babies and animals both.
Yes.
And we've had our dogs and cats on the show in the past, so let's bring everybody up to date. Sadly, one of the dogs we lost this past Monday.
Yes.
Scooter. And he was my dog, basically. And he was between 21 and 22 years old, so he had a
That
long life.
is a very long life for a dog.
Especially a
Very.
Yorkshire Terrier. You know, a small Yorkshire Terrier, they don't always have the best health, and so
Well, he was not really a small one.
no.
He at his best, he weighed almost 11 pounds, which is big for a Yorkie. The smaller ones will weigh 3 or 4 pounds. We got one down the street from us. I think that little dog didn't weigh but about 4 pounds, and she's full grown. But
He had also been abused though, and so like him having the
Yeah.
abusive past, you know.
well, when we got him, he was in pretty bad shape.
He was.
It was touch and go as to whether he was even going to make it or not. But he and I've had a lot of dogs in my life, and I've never had a bond with a dog like I had with Scooter. And actually, the funny thing is, you were just a little kid when we got him, and he was your dog to start with.
He slept with me and, you know,
Right off
hung
the
out
bat.
with me, and then you took him over.
It was obvious that Scooter and I had a bond, and both of us. I mean, that's one thing that I miss so much about him was not how much I loved him, but it was clear that I was his favorite. I mean,
Yes.
the rest of them would try to hold him in the living room, and he'd constantly be looking over at me
Stare you down.
and trying to get down. As soon as he got down, he'd come running over to me. So he was my buddy, and this has been a hard week for me, as y'all know. But
Yeah,
we'll
I
get
mean,
over it.
Scooter will be missed. He was a big dog in a little dog's body.
Yeah.
So
Well, all Yorkies are like that.
Yeah.
They think they weigh 100 pounds and they weigh 10.
I think he was especially hard-headed, though. You know, being your dog. So
Well, he got that from you, Sheila. But anyway, Scooter's gone, and we still have Toby, our little Pomeranian, and he's cute as a button, and we
He
love
is
him
very
to death.
cute, especially after his new haircut that people
Yeah.
will see soon.
Right. We also have another dog that's in the office now, and he belongs to Sarah, the girl that's in the control room right now doing all the technical stuff. So we let her bring her dog to work
yeah,
too.
also a rescue.
Also a rescue dog, and he's a sweet little dog. He's a little funky looking, but he's a sweet little dog. I love him to death. And technically, I guess his name is Dusty,
Dusty, yes.
but his real name is Flacco. We call him
Well, that's the nickname that you gave him.
because Flacco means skinny in
Yeah.
Spanish.
Mark says that you can hold him up to light and see through him.
Right, you can hold him up to a 100-watt bulb and do an X-ray of him.
Yeah. Well, that's because he's part Whippet and then part Boston Terrier, and so like the Whippet is why he's so skinny.
Yeah, he looks like a little miniature greyhound, kind of.
Yeah.
And he's fast, like a little greyhound. If you try to catch him, he can run.
Yeah.
He's a sweet little dog, and he comes up here every day. Now, we've had to put him in another part of the building because he's a barker. But anyway, now on the cat front, we've always had 2 cats here,
Yes.
Sophie and Josie. During the move, they went to live with the crazy cat lady of Ponder, Texas, also known as Renee.
That would be me. I just bring them all on in.
She's got all
of
these
them in.
cats and dogs at her house, mostly cats.
Yeah.
And you are going to be that person.
No, I'm
That
not.
when you die,
No.
one day you're 80 years old, they're going to go to your house and they're going to find 140 cats.
Ugh, no. Heavens no.
Well, you've got 9 right now.
Mark.
She didn't want people to know that.
9
Anyways,
cats.
yeah.
That's the
Those-
ones that live in the house.
That's Josie and Sophie there now, so
Yeah, well, they went to live
Including
with
them.
you while,
yes.
and then you didn't want to bring them back, and you did bring them back one day, but it was obvious you wanted to keep them at home. So they're now living with the crazy cat lady of Ponder, Texas.
Yes.
And so we had to have another cat for the office.
We did.
Official office cat.
Official Life Dynamics office cat. So we went to the rescue shelter and we got Willie. And
He's a cutie.
Willie is a cutie, and he has stolen everybody's heart.
Yeah.
Everybody.
He is also so mischievous
Yes.
too.
He's about 8 months old. Yeah, but he's cute. He's still very playful.
Yeah, he is. But most cats don't have a whole lot of personality. I love cats to death, but they don't have a lot of personality. This cat is loaded with personality,
Very much so.
and everybody has fallen in love with him. You can't help it. First time you see him, you're in love with Willie.
Yeah, and he has a really pretty coat too. It's swirly. He's a
Yeah.
really pretty cat.
He's a beautiful cat.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the new format for LifeTalk. First off, we're going to be introducing a new segment called Robots. For Roe versus Wade fans, they're robots because they just regurgitate the same nonsense. And they've been
Over
doing it for 40 years.
Over and over. Nothing
Right.
new.
And we're going to show people how to respond to that. We're going to show people the flaws in what they're saying, the lies that they're telling.
Right.
And we've got this new section called Robots.
It's really cool too.
It's going to be really cool.
It's very modern, especially,
Edgy.
you know, with people loving robots these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And artificial intelligence
Yeah.
and all that
Yeah.
nonsense. So we'll be introducing that come Tuesday.
Okay.
So that'll be on our next show. We are also set up now to do Skype. We've always had phone guests,
Yes.
but we've never had a Skype set up.
Right.
We've got that set up now.
Yes.
So we'll be having people coming on the show by Skype.
It'll be good.
It'll be really good. So if you
Yeah.
have Skype and we invite you onto the show, then we'll be able to actually show people what you look like. And actually,
They
it's
can
almost
see
like you're
ya.
here, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
But even for people that are out in the field there that don't have Skype, we'll be having guests like Father Frank on, and he's on Skype now, and Troy and all the most of the larger players in the pro-life movement all are on Skype. So
Yeah.
so I'm going to be, Father Frank's got a new show. I'm going to be on there a lot, and you'll be on there some, and you'll probably want you on there some, Sheila. But then he's going to be on here via Skype as well.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other things that we can look for. We're also going to be introducing, since we're only going to be doing Life Talk once a week, and we'll get to that schedule here in a minute. It's basically going to be every Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll be taping a Life Talk. But things happen from one Tuesday to the next.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes big things happen. So we're introducing a thing called breaking news, where if something happens, we're going to come on within a few minutes
Right.
and tell people about it. And it's not going to be an official show. It'll be just a real thrown-up kind of thing. Hey, this is what's happened. You know, this abortionist has killed a woman, or this has happened, or whatever it might be. The Supreme Court ruling on this.
Yeah.
And
It'll keep people up to date instantly. You know, everyone
Right.
wants, you know, to know stuff instantly because
Yeah.
of like social media and
Right.
stuff. And so this will be a great way for people to be able to keep up
right.
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. So we'll be introducing that breaking news segment. And there's no schedule. It's whenever something happens. And like I said, all the time we get stuff. For example, somebody will call us and say, "I'm a sidewalk counselor. I was just in front of the sidewalk in front of Leroy Carhart's place, and the ambulance just took another woman, in." And we don't know her status, but she didn't look good when they put her in the ambulance.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to get that kind of information out quickly because the American news media is not going to put it out ever.
Yeah. They don't want people to hear that.
Not
Yeah.
even Fox News.
Not even Fox is going to put that out. So we'll be able to get that stuff out real quickly. And that's a new service we're going to be offering to people. Like I said, the schedule will be, this is, of course, Friday, and our next show will be Tuesday, and that'll be our first show where we actually have content. Right now, we're just trying to bring people up to date.
Just an introduction. Mhm.
And again, with this new format that we're going to have, I think it's going to be very informative, very modern, and very up to date. And it's going to be instant with this breaking news thing. But we need to encourage people out in the audience. We need you guys to help us.
Engagement.
We need you to engage with us because a lot of the information that we pass along on Life Talk that the secular media is never going to tell people about, we get from you. We don't have stringers or we don't have reporters covering the whole United States. We have to rely on people out in the field calling us and saying this is going on or you need to know about this.
So if people have any like show ideas, not even if it's, newsworthy, but something that they think we should talk about, let us know. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, email us, send us suggestions.
Right, exactly. And we want to know too, I want to make sure people understand something. We've said this before. We want to talk about the unsung heroes in the pro-life movement, not just the people that you always hear about. This movement is not about Mark Crutcher or Troy Newman or Father Frank Pavone or any of the other people that you normally hear about.
Or the ones that you see on camera all the time.
Right. It's not about us. the hidden heroes in this movement are the people that are on the sidewalks,
behind the scenes,
or working in the legislature somewhere, trying to get something passed, and you never hear about them. They do the grunt work. And we need to know about those people. And we need to bring them on, mainly because a lot of times, it's not a matter of publicity or egos or anything like that. The main thing is, if you've got somebody out here in a sidewalk counseling environment, let's just say, or in a political environment, where they're doing stuff that's effective, but they're not getting any attention for it.
Right.
If we can bring them on here and get them a little attention, maybe somebody else in their community can do exactly the same thing. They look at somebody here and they say, wow, I could do that, or I never thought about that. That's a good idea.
Right.
We've got to make LifeTalk more interactive with the frontline activists out there and with the people who are at home who may not do anything more than just donate to a pro-life group, but they need to know what they're donating for.
Right.
Exactly. And it also brings up, that you'll know more about what's going on in the pro-life movement instead of just the big topics that you hear about all the
Right.
time. You'll start hearing more about those smaller things that, help make up the pro-life movement.
That actually make a difference.
Yeah.
A lot of the big things that you hear about are ego-driven, and the media picks up on something, they think it's pretty clever, so they run with that. And in reality, we see things all the time. I've talked about this many times, Rennie. We see things all the time that get a ton of publicity, but you look at them and you say, but that's not going to make any difference in the battle.
Right.
That's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. But then we'll see some little 75-year-old woman or some nun out here on the sidewalk doing something pretty clever, and you think that could be effective. Other people need to know about that, and they're never going to if we don't cover it.
Yeah, I mean, if there are saves, there are techniques of the saves, the babies that are being saved, just, anything. We want to hear about it.
Absolutely. I remember years ago when rescue was still going on and people were doing rescues at abortion clinics. One of the most effective ones I ever saw, and it got no publicity, it didn't even get much publicity inside the pro-life movement except on LifeTalk, were what we call silent rescues. People, and they had one in Dallas that I went to, and it was eerie. But they had 50 or 60 people standing in front of this abortion clinic in Dallas, and nobody was saying a word. They were on each side of the sidewalk, leading right up to the door, and nobody was saying a word. And these women were walking up, and instead of people, I think they had more saves from these women walking up, and the eerie feeling that it was giving them translated to the eerie feeling that you should have when you're having your baby killed. And women were stopping and saying, could I ask you a question? Or why are you here? Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you saying anything? And they were able to take them aside. But that silent rescue, I wish people would do that again.
Just praying. Was it red tape? Was it the red tape?
No.
No, they were just praying.
They were just standing. They weren't doing anything. They were just standing there. And I'll tell you, it's a weird feeling if you're in a big crowd of people and nobody's saying anything.
You expect some kind of noise at least.
And it's a strange feeling.
Dead silence.
And it was very effective, but it didn't get a lot of press. It didn't get any press, actually, because the media only wanted to be out there when the pro-lifers were hollering at people
Because that fits their image.
or
That's
getting
right.
arrested or getting beat up by the police. Now that's sexy and it looks good on TV, but they're not going to cover the silent rescue.
No.
And that's an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, we also need you out there in the field to tell your friends about LifeTalk. We've got to get more viewers if we're going to continue doing this. We've got to have more people watching.
And if you have any questions you want us to address, be sure to ask them. I mean, that saying there are no stupid questions. We want questions. We want to be able to help answer any questions that someone might have.
They say it's no stupid questions, there's only stupid answers. Well,
that's
it's the pro-aborts that give the stupid answers.
exactly.
And we've got a ton, and no matter how simple you think your question is, let us know. Because we've got a ton of new people coming in this movement who've never heard some of these what might be otherwise considered simple questions. They don't know the answer to them.
Well, and there's a lot of misconceptions that need to be cleared up and straightened out. So, I mean, ask.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, but again, be sure and tell your friends. Get everybody you know that's pro-life to watch in LifeTalk.
Yep.
We've got some changes that will be coming in the very near future. One of them is we're going to be having new podcasts.
Yay!
I'm going to
That's
have
exciting.
I'm going to have a podcast
Yes.
that I'm going to do once a week, and it's going to be heavily educational, the history of the pro-life movement, how we got here, the concepts of being pro-life, what it means to be pro-life. I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this before, I honestly believe this is true. We've got a ton of, even people that are now emerging as leaders in the pro-life movement, who I guarantee you cannot give an accurate description of what the word pro-life means. They have no clue.
It's because, the media is, shouting out something. And so a lot of, the fundamental knowledge is being drowned out,
Right.
By the other side.
Yep. So my podcast is going to be dedicated to that particular idea of this is educational, because that's what I did when I started out in the pro-life movement. My old seminars were they were focused totally on education. And so I'm going to go back and do those. That's one thing, that's the gift God gave me, and I'm going to go back and use that gift more than what I've done in the past.
And you're really good at it.
Thanks.
Really good.
So that will be the podcast that I'm going to be doing. And eventually, you're going to have a podcast of your own.
Yes.
And we've got a really neat, we don't need to talk about it today, but we've got a really neat format for that podcast.
Trying to come up with a name here.
Yep. But
Which is always the hardest part. So.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And it touches, it will,
Reach a different audience.
well, it'll reach a totally different audience than mine will, but with a different message altogether. But what it'll also do is it'll tap into her skills, the skills that God gave to Renee, that he didn't give to me. And he really didn't give them to you either, Sheila. But anyway, Renee is very good at and so we're going to craft that podcast around her skill set, just like we're crafting my podcast around my skill set. Now, the third podcast that we're going to be introducing, and this is the one we all got to take a deep breath with.
No, I mean...
She'll set it straight.
Sheila and Sarah from our staff are going to be having their own podcast that's going to be basically directed toward millennials and younger.
Yeah, more youth.
More youth-oriented, because you guys understand the loopy thinking of your generation.
Well, I don't know if I understand it, but,
She's not the typical millennial.
So I don't understand, exactly everything they do, but, I understand what's going on at least.
Closer than me. There's things that I hear you and Sarah talking about all the time that make absolutely no sense to me. But that's the reason that I can't reach that age group.
But I don't need, laundry detergent pods or do any of those other challenges. So that's the part I don't get.
You don't eat Tide. You don't do the Tide challenge.
Pods.
Yeah.
No.
Eat those.
Or the cinnamon challenge or any kind of challenge like that. So.
Yeah. Well, you and Sarah, I think, are going to do a great job. You're going to have your own podcast. And we're still coming up with names for all these. We got to come up with a name for yours. Right. And we came up with a name. What was the name for?
American Resistance.
That's going to be yours. Right. Yeah. And mine was going to be...
yours is unfiltered
pro-life unfiltered.
Pro-life unfiltered.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we're going to get back to the raw basics, make sure everybody here understands.
Yes.
And, it's kind of like in baseball. A kid starts out in playing sandlot baseball. Then he gets into maybe Pee Wee baseball. Then he gets into Little League baseball. Then he gets into Pony League baseball. Then he gets into high school baseball. And then college. And then maybe he gets into the pros if he's the 1 out of 10 trillion that make it that far. When he gets into the pros, they start over again with the basics of baseball.
They have to still know the fundamentals.
They still got to know the fundamentals. They don't assume that he knows everything there is just because he's gotten drafted into the pros.
Yeah. And that's exactly like my son. He's going to be a varsity basketball player, and they're still learning the fundamentals even today. So.
And they keep going over them.
They do, and they need to.
Practice makes perfect.
And so like at the spring training, every year for every team, even the team that won the World Series last year, those coaches say, okay, we're starting over the very basics. We're going to learn how you turn this double play. We're going to learn how you do this. We're not going to assume that you know this.
And it's important that you don't fall into bad habits,
Right.
So if you don't know the fundamentals about the pro-life movement, you can start falling into bad habits, and that would help the other side.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have fallen into bad habits.
Exactly.
And like I said, we've got a generation of pro-life leaders that are out there right now that I guarantee you cannot give a legitimate definition of what it means to be pro-life. They don't know.
Right.
And let me tell you something. That is not their fault. That is the fault of us older pro-lifers, because we have assumed that everybody knew everything we knew. And I have actually talked to people who said, no, we don't need to talk about that. We learned that 40 years ago. Yeah. But we got people who are 15 years old. They didn't learn it 40 years ago, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we've got to start over with the basics, and that's what I'm going to be doing
That's good.
with my Pro-Life Unfiltered. And then you'll be going after the millennials, and then we've got a target market for you that you're going after.
Yeah, kind of compassion, more testimonials, and I'm a mother of teens that are in high school, so I'd like to reach those kind of people
Right.
and
Right.
the
And you've
birth
got-
control and just
Yeah.
and I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's all right.
If somebody comes up with a good name or would like to help me out here, let me know.
We're drawing a blank on that name.
You're the mom, the pro-life mom.
I am the pro-life mom. That's already
But-
taken, but
But you've had experiences with your kids in high school,
yes,
and they've come home, and your kids are all very pro-life. Your kids
Yes.
don't back down from it.
No.
They're like Sheila was when she was that age, you know.
yes,
But they don't back down from it. But
no,
it's around them.
it is around them, and one of them has made enemies with other children because of the abortion issue, and that's okay because
Right.
I mean it's the I mean,
So anyway,
They-
that's
they
kind of
talk.
where we are. I
Yes.
just want to bring you up to date. I know we didn't really talk about any content today, but
Yep.
we're going to start Monday.
And we're also going to be simplifying our
Oh,
website.
that's right. That's right.
Yes.
We're going to be, changing things around so it's more user friendly and
Yeah.
people can access it on their smartphones easier and tablets. So we're going to be revamping things as
yeah,
well.
it'll be
Yeah.
good.
We're gonna hit the ground running with the show come Tuesday.
Yep.
And we'll be getting rid of these other things done.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of neat things planned.
Yeah. Yeah. So just connect with us. We're on all different types of social media platforms. So,
And for people that may be wondering what these computers are all about up here on the deal, you are watching Facebook.
I'm watching Facebook Live right now as we speak.
So if somebody wants to connect with us, we talked about engagement, even while the show's going on.
Yep.
Go on Facebook and
Say
send us a
hi.
message. And you've already talked about one of the messages today. And you're going to be on Periscope and Instagram and what's
Yep. I have Periscope pulled up right now, which is, a live broadcasting platform. So,
Yes.
and there also you're going to be on Instagram and what's the other ones?
we have YouTube. Facebook is the main one. And
YouTube and
Periscope,
Facebook are the biggest.
yeah.
Periscope and
Yeah.
a lot of others that we're gonna try to dominate social media with the pro-life message.
Yeah.
With a legitimate, sincere, diluted,
Yeah, unfiltered.
unfiltered, undiluted pro-life message. We're not going to back down
Yeah.
from the absolute unfiltered view that every unborn child from the moment of fertilization has the same right to life as a 5-year-old.
Yes.
We can't let the pro-aborts drown us out.
No, and we can't let them define what it means to be pro-life, and we can't let this new generation of people that are coming up that don't know what they're doing define what it means to be pro-life. We've got to educate them as well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're headed.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
Of
Thank you.
course.
And I'm happy to have you back again, obviously, still here with me.
I'm still here.
And we're happy to have Sheila on board.
Good to be here.
And I think we're gonna make waves here. We always have.
Exactly.
In the meantime, that's all we have for for LifeTalk this time. We'll be seeing you next Tuesday. Until then, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next Tuesday.